Hello and welcome everybody. It is time for British tracks. It's time for Donington, most importantly, here tonight in the eSeniors GT3 League. Joining me here in the broadcast booth is going to be Steve. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you, Nicholas. Yeah, a bit of a change of scene for me from operating the cameras to being behind the mic this week. So be gentle with me and let's see how we can go around Donington Park. What a circuit these drivers have got in front of them this evening. And as you say, it's the start of a little bit of a British tour. We've had previously round one Barcelona. Round two was Bathurst. Now, Bathurst, what a track. Some great racing there from these guys. But now to Donington Park tonight. Then we move on for round four. Brands Hatch, May the 30th. Alton Park, June the 6th. Snetterton, June the 13th. So we've got 4 British tracks in quick succession for these guys. So they're going to get used to the tight, twisty stuff.
Yeah,
Donington Park. Donington Park isn't the tightest of tracks, but it's certainly you've got to be precise here. There are blind apexes, lots of fast-flowing corners, but yeah, they've really got to nail those exits and get the entry points right, hit the apexes and everything like that, haven't they, Nicholas?
I mean, Donington in itself is a track where just one mistake is enough to send you out really wide and onto the grass somewhere. I'd say that it's basically like Bathurst, but instead of heading the walls, you're going to be going for a detour to mow some lawn out here in the British wildlands.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there are a few overtaking opportunities here. Some of them are for the brave. I mean, obviously, you've got Redgate turn one. It is a nice open sweeping right-hander that will be second gear, third gear in some cars. But you've got to be very, very careful. If you've got the inside line, you're usually fairly safe. It's the guy on the outside that's going to get hung out to dry and into the over the curb and into the gravel on Redgate. If you manage to go through there side by side, obviously you drop down Hollywood into the Craner Curves and into the infamous Old Hairpin. Now that is not a corner you want to go around there 2x2, but we will see some battles down the Craner Curves, I am sure of it. If you get a good run out of the Old Hairpin, you have got the opportunity up under where Starkey's Bridge used to stand, through Swans Curve into the braking zone of McLean's. Again, if you can get the inside line there into an uphill right-hander, you stand a good chance of making a position up there. Through Coppice is very, very tricky. We will see people going maybe side by side there, but I think Coppice, it's more of a corner where you want to concentrate and focus on getting a good exit, get the drive out of the corner onto the Starkey straight and see if you can maybe get some slipstream, set yourself up for an outbraking manoeuvre into the Fogarty S's. If you don't get the job done at Fogarty S's, the Melbourne Hairpin is probably, and I say this respectfully, one of the easiest corners to try and get a move done. It is a good old-fashioned heavy braking zone into a very tight hairpin. I mean, literally first gear. Some of the guys may be second gear. It's almost a double apex hairpin, but it's very, very tight, and it is a great opportunity if you manage to come through those Fogarty S's with a great, really good clean line, carry a little bit more speed than the car in front to set yourself up into the braking zone there. We will see some overtakes there.
There's a little bit of play back and forth, really. You can even go for basically a switch back, running the car a little bit deeper into the braking zone and then hoping to get a nice run into turn 11 Gollards there. So I'm sure that's where really the racecraft is going to be shown tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the chaps are, ladies and gents, are all out on track now with qualifying underway. We've got 23 and a half minutes left on the clock. We see we've got some times on the board already. So do we want to head over trackside and let's see who's topping the timing sheets at the moment.
Yeah, jumping right on over there. We're currently following Derek Bird in the DBK. Got some nice time up in there, but to no surprise, it's the 196 up at the front, just like last time in Bathurst and the first time as well. Really, it seems that Wolfslaner in the Ferrari has got things figured out here already.
Yeah, Wolfsline has won the first 2 rounds of this championship, so he's in a dominant position with a total of 80 points over Derek Bird in the Porsche, who we were looking at a few moments ago, sat in joint second place with 57 points. So Derek Bird should be in for a good show tonight because the Porsche will favour Donington Park. It's not the fastest car in a straight line, but boy, does it come out of those corners quickly.
Yeah, it certainly got a lot of traction zones around here. First sector, third, just as much. And I would imagine that he's going to be pushing to the limits and hopefully getting a couple of noses to the inside when it comes to some of the braking zones. So
Yeah, I'm going to say I'm pretty new to this championship myself, having only streamed one of the races so far and driven in the. I was honoured in that they let me drive with them in the Porsche Cup round at Bathurst the other week. So it'll be interesting to see what other names can pop out of the timing sheets and see who is in contention. I mean, in the championship standings, we've got a little bit of a mixed bag, but it's definitely Wolfensteiner who is really out in the lead with those 80 points.
yeah, he's definitely showing how it can be done. I mean, 80 points in just so few races, that's super impressive, really. Yeah, I was about to say that Andrea Caiola here in the 67 would have almost put his name way up there. He had 2 10s until turn 11, where he threw all of that away and just narrowly gazing now just under a 10th to the pole position. I'd say we have a couple of very close runner-ups here. Let's see what the race pace is going to bring, really.
Yeah, definitely. Like you say, it's interesting to see. We've got a very, very close margin at the top. We've got Mark Neutling's in the Audi. That Audi is an absolutely awesome piece of kit. Another very, very quick car, lots of horsepower and a very high revving. I think the max RPM on that car is around 8,800 RPM. So when that gets singing down the straight, we're certainly going to hear that one coming.
Yeah, from behind in the sim spot, 666 Audi here. Sometimes you do want to rev it out all the way just to get that little bit of extra engine power. In this case, you don't really have to conserve the engine as much. I'd reckon if you'd be running this at the full 8,800, 900 you were talking about for a 12-hour race, the engineers are going to be rolling their eyes, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, just to make you roll your eyes a little bit more, then I would say Derek Bird's got the edge on the rev limit, because I know the Porsche revs out round about 9,300 RPM. So yeah, like you say, I don't think they're going to be really screaming them round here tonight, because it's not a flat-out speed track as we see, and as we said earlier, it's more about being precise, about maintaining that forward momentum, getting the flow through the corners, taking the curb where you can there, as we see Derek Bird just running nicely there. Now he's just going through copper. He's going to get a good run out here, just trying to keep it tight, but keep the steering wheel open as well, allowing you to introduce the power nice and smoothly, get the best run you can now down the straight and into what is Fogarty S is now a heavy braking zone. Get the turn in early, carry the speed through, take the little bit of curb, like we say, run it out to the left there, onto the curb again, keeping it on the power, and now running into what is the heaviest braking zone on the track. And you've really got to tee this one up properly, because it's a very tight, but it's quite a long old hairpin, is that one.
Yeah, you have to be patient. I often see newer drivers approaching this track a little bit too uncautiously, essentially sending the car inwards a little bit too much. Just, pay attention as Bird comes across the line. He basically nailed the first and second sector. Unfortunately, the third wasn't quite there to follow up. But I would say that all of these British tracks have something in common, and that is exactly the sort of precision you need. Derek Bird there, exactly giving us Exhibit A there for how you need to apply that precision to make it around the track nicely.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's one of the disadvantages of the Porsche, with it being the 4-litre flat-six rear-engine car. When you drop that rear wheel off the curb onto the dirt there, and he was still trying to apply that power, there's only one way that car's going to go, and it's literally sideways, and it just threw him offline there. Some of the other cars, they'll all get a bit twitchy when you're doing that, but when you've got some of the mid-engine, front-engine cars especially, they will handle that situation slightly better than the Porsche will, and a little bit more controllable. But it is what it is. Every car out there is a challenge, because they're all trying to extract that 100% potential out of the car, 100% performance to get that best time that they can. But currently, we're watching Baker down in 22nd in the Aston Martin. He's 1.5 seconds off the pace. That's not bad, considering he's in 22nd place, but there's room for improvement, and I'm sure he's giving it the beans, as we say in Blighty, and he's going to see if he can knock a few tenths off at least.
Yeah, I would be surprised if he can't. There's still 17 minutes here in the quali, so I would reckon that, especially in the second sector here, he's going to find a little bit more time, considering how he's a little further up in the championship table so far. I think he is totaling 14 points after missing the Bathurst race and is looking to come back strong here in the Rotec Racing number 10.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a long championship. We have 10 rounds, with round 10 being July the 11th at Spa. So there's lots and lots of time for these drivers to get their get going in this championship, get some momentum, and get some points in the bag. But they just need to make sure that 196 Ferrari doesn't run away with too many points in the meantime.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me quickly, since my broadcast client unfortunately is having a little hiccup, I'm going to quickly go back to the holding screen and send us right back to the action when we get there. That's not bad. There we go. Right, so you're saying that obviously the Ferrari in itself, with a driver, Wolfsleyer, steering that and controlling that, it's going to be very strong around here also. But do you have any tracks on the calendar, say, where you reckon it's going to underperform a little bit?
I'm not going to say it's going to underperform, because I think the Ferrari's a well-balanced car. I think it's a reasonable car at most tracks, but I think there's maybe some of the other tracks that are coming up favour some of the other cars a little bit more. I mean, we've got Donington this round, which, as I said earlier, I think is going to suit the one of the cars. It'll suit a couple of them. One of the cars will be the Porsche, and then we've got Brands Hatch, and again, you know, it's another one of those tight, twisty tracks, and you know, you'd have to say that the Porsche is going to be up there again. But the Ferrari, like I say, it's a well-balanced car. It's nothing much wrong with driving that Ferrari, and you know, it's got 3.9 litres. It's a twin-turboed V8 revving out 7,600, sorry, and it's one of the mid to light range cars as well. So it's got a good power to weight ratio. You know, it's kicking out 550 brake horsepower. There's a lot of horsepower coming out of that Ferrari.
Talking about a lot of horsepower here, David Noble just set the third fastest time in qualifying so far. Yeah, the Ferrari itself is one of my favorite cars. I actually finished up winning a league in there because it was just quite not only favorable, but it was so favorable actually that I was able to win despite running 100 extra kilos of ballast, since that was a method that they were using. Talking about that, Andrea Caiola right on there, and he's demolished the time of Wolfslener there by 3.5 tenths of a gap. Now 26.8. That is very impressive, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, Caiola's sat there with 34 points in the championship at the moment, so he's certainly a man at the right end of the championship table at this stage. So he's going to be pushing, and I'm expecting to see him certainly in the top 6. And at the moment, he's there on that provisional pole position. We've still got 14.5 minutes to go. The track is optimum, so the grip levels are high. The temperature's not too bad. We're looking, I believe, around about 30 degrees track temperature, 22 degrees air temp. So things aren't too bad. The tyres will be standing up to the punishment, but there is a lot of relatively high speed corners around here where the tyres do come under quite a bit of load. You know, I mean, through Coppice there, that they're under load. Through Redgate's quite fast, but then into Hollywood, down the Craner curves, you know, you've got a lot of weight transfer there, and you're going to get a lot of stress on those tyres. So when it comes to the race, we may see some people's tyres starting to go over the edge a little bit towards the end of the race.
Maintaining, babysitting the tires, that's definitely a key word around here. Such a difficult second sector. You said it, McLean's, Coppice. That's just nightmare if you're an engineer trying to prepare a driver for that race, because the grip is going to fall off not too long. And we've already seen a couple of these drivers jump to the pits immediately after messing up a lap there. KB Smith had a nice run last time round, sends it to the grass. This time the grip is just going to fall off after, say, 3-4 laps, and eventually you're going to be stuck with a car that's just very heavy on the left hand side.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, once the cars stop wanting to turn in and change direction as quickly as you want them to, then obviously everything starts to slow down a little bit. And one of the key things around Donington and around any race circuit, to be honest, as any racing driver will tell you, is the key is to be smooth. You don't want to be over aggressive, as you said. You've got to be smooth. You've got to be consistent, and smooth and consistent is what consistency is what wins races. You can be the fastest man on track for one lap, but if you're not going to do it for 60 minutes, then you're not going to win the race. You know, it's or very rarely are you going to win that race. It's usually the smooth, consistent drivers that will win through in the end, and you know they'll maintain the same pace within a few tenths for that whole 60 minutes, without a doubt.
Yeah, it's very difficult to do so. It's really down to practice, and maybe let's talk about that a little bit. So, if you are preparing for a race like this, say, what's going to be your strategy? Are you just going to be pumping out laps? Are you going to be going into Motec, get the best setup possible? What's your approach if you want to be winning here tonight?
If you want to be winning here tonight, yes, you can use all the tools that you are gifted, Motec, things like that, but there is no substitute for track time. Track time is key. You know, get out there, practice. Don't constantly change the setup. Get a base setup. Do some laps. Just get those laps in without messing about with the setup too much, because 90% of the time, if not 99% of the time, the thing that's letting you down, the thing that's losing your time is the driver, and it's not necessarily always the car. That, you know, we just see a Ferrari there going a little bit wayward into the barriers, and that is our championship leader just making his mistakes before we go to the grid. But I mean, I think he's maybe just pushing hard, currently in second place, and he's maybe trying for that pole position out of pride, if for nothing else. I mean, the first corner, just going away from the practice a little bit, but the first corner at Donington is pretty important, because into Redgate, you go in, as I said, it's a relatively fast corner, sort of, as I say, second, third gear.
Right.
But you're on the power, and you're on the power for a long time when you come out of it, even though it's not a straight through Hollywood, down the crane of curves. It's all about that speed out of that first corner. So qualifying is pretty important, as it always is, but you know, more so maybe even here. So pole position to give yourself that little bit of an edge might just be key to a race win this evening.
Yeah, considering the inside line is so strong, even a position number 2 could actually be inferior to a third place that just tries to squeeze in and follow through with the leader. And as you said it, the result of a good start and a good qualifying can be quite important here, since the track narrows down severely into turn 4, the old hairpin. And chances are, if you're stuck in the middle of something, you're going to have a big old problem. So we've been following Alistair Hughes here for a couple of turns in number 16. He was able to improve by about a tenth last time around, sending him up to P23. And I just love how close the grid is. 1.7 seconds is all that it separates them from the top runners.
Yeah, absolutely, and the Bentley's a very understated car, underrated car in this sim, in the GT3 class overall. Yeah, it benefits and it favours certain tracks more than others, but it's not a bad all-round car. And if you can get to grips with it, you can extract some good lap times out of it, and you can be very competitive. And as I said, what is a 10-round championship? You've got plenty of time to get used to that car, and you've got plenty of laps to get in and get some times in. We've got plenty of Bentleys on the grids. We've seen P24 here of Holmes, and he's also that 1.2. I mean, look how close their time is there. I mean, we're talking thousandths of a second between the two Bentleys. So this is how close this grid is. Literally, you know, you don't throw any lap away. If it's anywhere near to being a slight improvement, you take it, because you might jump up 1 or 2 places.
Yeah, if he didn't invalidate it there up into the S's, I think he's going to have a good shot at actually jumping the sister car, the 109 here, in the hands of Craig Holmes. I think he's going to have a good old time. The cars are super close, obviously, the same sort of setup. I would assume maybe they're talking about that a little bit, just trying to give each other the edge that they need, considering the grid otherwise is consisting quite a lot of 3 manufacturers, really. Jumping across the line, P16, Craig Holmes in the Saint Orsina makes it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know the eSeniors community is a fantastic community for helping out. I mean, you just have to be part of their Discord to see that everybody's happy to help each other, and it's a really fantastic community to come and develop your sim racing talents it is, as the name suggests, for 50 years and over. So when we finish getting our backsides kicked by the younger generation, we come here and we take solace and race our mates. But it is a fantastic community, and they are doing great things on track and off track. So if you are in that age bracket, you want to come and do some racing with these guys, then look them up on Discord. eSeniors GT3 Championship. You will find them on Discord, and make some new friends and some new drivers to race.
Lovely to hear that. Now, what I want to know after quickly going over that that Mark Neutelings was so close there last time around to improving, actually setting personal best sectors, but it wasn't enough to complete the miracle for P2 here, as we see Porsche quickly giving that lawn a more to the side there. Yeah, but I want to know is, how did you get into the community?
Basically, yeah. I mean, to be fair, we're watching the man on the screen, Mark Neutlings, that told me about this community, and I've known Mark for a good couple of years now, racing with him in SimSport. And Mark, won't mind me saying, he's one of those drivers that through sheer practice, lap times, assistance from people within both communities, you know, the SimSport community and this community, his times have improved. He's got a faster driver, and now we can see him up at the sharp end of the table and really enjoying his racing. And I think that's one of the key components to having a good race, is if you're behind the wheel of a car that you're enjoying driving, then you're going to perform that little bit better. It's, you know, tongue in cheek, a little bit of a smile on my face. Being happy behind the wheel is definitely worth a couple of tenths, you know, for sure.
That's very nice to hear. It's also a nice motivation in itself, not just to go for that sort of strict pace. It's something that really just completes the evening. If you got the car right, if you got the track right, and you got a couple of nice lads to race with, that's exactly what you want.
Yeah, absolutely. You can get thrown into the mindset if you're having a bad race, if the car's not behaving as you want it to, if you haven't got the setup dialed in, you've got tyre pressures wrong or something like that, then it can really just wreck it, and you don't enjoy the race, and you literally don't want to be there. So, you know, what's the point? So yeah, definitely, we're all here for fun, as we just see the Porsche jumping up into the number 4 Porsche jumping up into 11th place there. So first to 11th are literally a second apart at the moment. In fact, almost 1.1 seconds down to P12. So it's all very close, like we keep saying. These guys are really putting some good times in. They're really attacking the track, as it were, and it's going to be. I'm really looking forward. I think turn 1 at Donington, I think it's one of the best turn 1s, certainly in the UK. I think it's one of the best starts.
Overall, yeah, I would say it's not just challenging itself to get your position right, but it gives more opportunities than a lot of other, say, turn 1s. For example, Misano, that's just promises to be a crash host, but in this, I think you get the right mixture of both ends, which is you want to have it be very close and opportunistic without ending up in a crash most of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a like I keep saying, it's a fairly open turn 1. They'll chuck it in there relatively quickly. We will see them going in there at some point too wide, and we will see a couple of cars running wide onto the grass a little bit, because it's just the nature of the corner when they go through there. It's not that there's any bad driving or anything. I mean, you watch the real world stuff, and that's what happens. It just invites it through there. It's got a big old rumble strip. It's got a little bit of runoff area, but unfortunately, once you go over that AstroTurf, you are into the gravel, and that saps the speed out of you, and you will lose positions. So it's a good turn 1. It favours the inside line, as you said earlier, but yeah, definitely we'll see some 2x2 action through there, down through Hollywood, Craner Curves. It's going to be really good. Craner Curves, full chat, side by side. That has got to be one of the great motorsport sites.
Yeah, it's have to assert some dominance if you want to come out on top there. We're seeing Peter Wolfslehner here on screen. Was able to improve last time round and shortening the gap to 1.6 second, and actually had to drive the fastest second sector to do so. But he's currently losing a lot of time in the third sector. Let's see if he can get it right this time around. He's currently down on the delta, so he'll probably have to abandon this lap. But you know, there is still pace, and what I really like is that these different manufacturers here up at the front, we have Aston in front of Ferrari, then Audi and AMG, very different philosophies when it comes to where you want to pick up the speed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if anybody wants to follow the lap times that we're seeing on the screen, if you go to Pitwall Live and hook up with SimSport Solutions on there, we have a channel on there that does display all the timings with all the sector times and everything, a track map with all the car numbers on. You can click on the cars, you can follow who you want to follow and see how they're getting on for the whole of the race. You can compare them with other cars on track, see how their relatives are looking. Really, really great website. So Pitwall Live .com. Go on there, look for SimSport Solutions channel, and you'll see the live timing coming through now while we're commentating. That's what we're using as well behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's quite wonderful to get the edge basically on the action, and for you to follow as well, right on live there. And if you were, then maybe you would have already seen that Derek Burke is once again looking to impress. Currently 7/10 off the pace and has 3 in the back. That would be enough for him to leapfrog up to P3 potentially, if he can carry this across the line. And now into the final turn, turn 11, that is Goddard's. It's just the final objective right in the way, as well as that Ferrari sends it to the inside and there's contact. He'll have to abandon that lap. Very, very unfortunate. Just 2 minutes in the practice and he'll quali, and he'll actually head to the pit lane. So chances are he'll have to settle for P6 at most.
If he escapes back to pits and jumps straight back out, he has got just about enough time to maybe get round and get another flying lap in. But that just depends how quick he is at resetting the car and getting back on track. But still a few cars out on track. Still quite a lot of cars out on track, all still putting some good laps in. As you say, I think they're all finding a little bit of time. We're still seeing some small improvements here and there as we ride on board with the Bentley. What great camera view we're getting now over the dashboard and literally sat in the passenger seat for what is the last half of the lap at Donington Park. So we're going to go down into one of the fastest parts of the track now, where we're literally 100% throttle now and going under what was the Dunlop bridge before they took it down into the Fogarty S's. Now this is all about being smooth here and trying to keep the steering open on the exit to get the power down without running too far wide into the heavy braking zone. Heavy down the gears, probably down to first gear I believe here, and just keeping it tight there, gentle with the power, open the steering up and climbing up the hill now, looking third, probably hit 4th gear maybe before you start coming back down the box, back into first again, and then onto the start finish straight to complete another lap of Donington Park.
There it is. Alistair Hughes manages to actually find some time there. 28.3 is enough for 22nd here on the grid. It's very, very nice to see that he's basically finding that very late in the qualifying. I think most of the drivers have extracted their potential. However, I am quite surprised to find that actually Andrea Caiola here, already leading in temporary pole position, was just briefly up 3/10 there. Might have outbroken himself a little bit. So this is going to be the final opportunity after this. So flying laps will count if you come across the line with time to spare, which he will. Let's see if it is an improvement. It's going to be very tight on the time. Look how close that is, already maxing it out. And he sees that there's nobody in the front runners, almost the entirety of the top 10 here already in the pit lane, so he'll join them right on in there.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like there's a few of the drivers have just decided to call that session it, but we've still got a handful of cars on the track, still looking to try and go out there and improve. Derek Bird isn't one of them in the Porsche. He obviously felt after that little bit of contact he'd done enough, and where 6th place I believe is in year 6 was good enough for him. And he is one that I expect to maybe see come up the standings a little bit. But what this does set us up for, Nicholas, is a great race with such close times.
Yeah, I mean, look at those timetables. Everybody is starting P7, or rather P6 and onwards. It's just so absolutely packed. We saw that in the 51 with a last-ditch effort from Alessandro Diamante, making it happen and improving his qualifying time quite significantly. So the final cars out on track. Carlo Van Brabant has stopped the number 4 Porsche on the start-finish line, and I think that's going to be about it. Very excited to see what we're going to be watching in terms of the pace. I'm happy to see that the number 67 Aston Martin is up front. Not sure if he'll manage to bring that across the line, but it does seem quite promising.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like I say, it's going to be some very, very close racing tonight, and I think there's going to be some great stuff. But it's all about keeping that Ferrari in check, isn't it? They don't want to They don't want Wolfensteiner to get another win here tonight, because that could stretching out a lead which is already 23 points to the good. They won't want to see that extend anytime soon.
Yeah, I'm sure that Cayola will try his best. He actually finished third at Barcelona last time round, so I'm sure that he's trying to give it his all, as always. As we're jumping right on over, have another quick chat here in this transition screen as I'm setting up a run down the grid.
Yeah, absolutely. So they don't believe they go on a full formation lap. It will just be a short formation lap here this evening. So the racing will get underway fairly feisty. But what that does mean is they don't get a full lap to get the heat into the brakes and things. Obviously, they are on preheated tyres at the start of a GT3 race. But they don't get to go out there and just put that extra heat into the brakes and whatnot and get their tyres up to any sort of higher temperatures close to racing temps. So you used to expect to see a few people maybe being a little bit cautious on the first lap, trying to keep things under control. And I think we might see a few twitchy cars going down the corner curves, Nicholas.
Yeah, for the first lap, it's very important that you just don't ruin your qualifying effort. There's so many opportunities in the session here tonight. I've prepared the grid walk. Do you want to take care of that, or shall I?
You can. I'll let you do that one, Nicholas, and you talk us through as I'm just getting pit wall live going for the race.
Will do. So we have everything set up here, following in it. First row, Cayola in the Aston Martin here, next to Wolfslaner. He'll be competing on the outside for turn 1. Now in the second row, it's the first Audi on the grid. It's Neutelings right on there. Then Nobel in the AMG joining him here on the second row. Then Eklund from, I believe that is Sweden. Then Bird with the first Porsche on the grid. It's the 701 in the third row. Then Diamante next to Santos. It's the Ferrari double next to, in front of, rather, Bywater and Nifosi. Both Porsche right there, 38 and 63. You're seeing them as we're riding on past down the grid. Then the second Aston on the grid is going to be Walby, also from Sweden. And the number 4 Porsche we've been following earlier with a last-ditch effort in quali there as well. Then a bit later than expected, Ongaro and B. Smith there. Nissan, I would have expected a bit further up the grid, considering that he's actually P3 in the championship right now, following his second place. Hiot and Panov are going to be right on there, finishing up the top 10. Then Witten and Holmes in the 83. First Bentley on the grid as we are starting to slowly get rolling. Then Dijon, Kun, Status, Dont, and use that, I think, all the time that we're going to be having right on there. Jumping on over, and let's get this rolling.
Yeah, looking forward to this one. I think it's going to be fantastic, and it's going to be action all the way. Like we said, we have some very, very close times on that timing board in qualifying. So not really expecting anyone to run away too far into the distance. Obviously, that will depend on any incidents or contacts, but hopefully we're going to get a good clean start. And that Aston Martin and Ferrari are certainly going to be battling into turn 1, and probably expect them to see going through there side by side. Neutlings, has to be said there, in P3 has got a good position though, really, because he's going to get that inside line into turn 1. So if there is any jiggery pokery in turn 1, then Neutlings could be the one to benefit from that. Let's see, as they are about to line up for the lights, and let's get this race underway.
All right. Obviously, Aston is not going to have the most fantastic start. Let's see what kind of run they get from the second row of the grid as we're going green, 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 and away we go. Audi, as expected, with a very strong start right on there. Stu file up into the first turn, and a very nice run there for Cayola as he's able to go just ahead. Audi gets a very nice start there. Noble has to drop back into 5th position as he's overtaken by Eklund. Now side by side down the hill and into the old hairpin, and it looks like Cayola got away very nicely.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very respectful start from the guys there, and it's looking like no one's really changed too many positions. Derek Bird's still there in 6th place in the portion of the background we can see, yeah, really, really respectful driving from the guys there as we're just coming up 2 by 2 there as they go into McLean's, but all safe and sound, fantastic start, and they're all going to get settled into a rhythm now and really start to try and apply their trade and put some pressure on the guy in front, whoever's in front of them, whether that's an Audi, Porsche, Ferrari, whatever it is. They're just going to be trying to hustle now as they go down the Starkey straight towards the Fogarty S's for the first time, and what is a relatively light braking zone, flick it in left then right, and everyone's looking like they've got the line there, but that line through the S's is where the most difference can be made, and you can see people gaining an advantage and getting alongside, if not ahead. But it's looking like that Aston Martin is really starting to stretch its legs.
Yeah, quite immediately he was able to find the rhythm, it seems. Maybe he got the extra hot set of brakes when he's starting. I see contact there in the background. I think that might have been number 8 there. Nifosi, actually, no, that must have been Bywater there. No, dropping back, number 4, it's Vibrant in the blue and vibrant colors there. Unfortunately, making contact with the Ferrari. We'll have to go back into the replay and have a look at that.
Yeah, a little bit of contact in the early part there, just coming out of Goddard's, and you know, it's one of those corners that you do suffer with a little bit of contact in Goddard's in the early part of the race, and definitely it's just one of those things. Just trying to get on the power maybe a little bit too soon there, and just lost it, didn't he?
Yeah, it was quite unfortunate there. He wanted to go to the outside. There's a second instance of contact. He collects the Aston. Very unfortunate start of the race there. It looked like the Ferrari went wide, and you didn't expect him to come back to the racing line. Regardless of that, it's going to be a very quick show and go for him tonight, I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely. As we see a couple of cars in the pit lane now, and whether they're going to get repaired or whether they're going to call it a night. Hopefully they'll get repaired, come back out on track, because as we said earlier, track time is the best practice. Whether it's for the track you're on now, you just need to be behind the wheel of that car. As we see them all filing through Melbourne hairpin now, nose to tail, keeping it very close. But just a few gaps opening up now. Derek Bird in 6th place. He's just starting to lose touch a little bit with the Mercedes of Noble in front, but he's certainly got some company of Santos and Nifosi behind him, who he's going to have to keep an eye on that rear view mirror. Either look in the mirror and keep an eye on those, or stretch the legs out forward. But we've seen we've got a little bit more battling now down here in 12th place, and this is looking rather tasty as well. And as it is in back in 13th, 14th, and 15th, still all concertinaed up, obviously, but we are only in the early stages of this race, and nobody really has pulled away too far, apart from the leader, who is stretching his legs.
Yeah, we're seeing a nice run up at the front, 27.8. It's quicker than some of the guys who have been doing in qualifying, and then out wide goes Bywater there at the front, I think dropping the position there to Paunov. So that's going to be P11 and 12 trading places there quite briefly. I'd say there's a little bit of a gap, obviously, up in front with Kayola pushing quite hard. Let's have a look at that, 1.2 seconds there already. And then there's definitely a bit of a gap here in between P8 and P9, 3 seconds that is. A little bit of a runner-up group at front. If you want to stay there, you definitely have to improve your pace.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to improve your pace and just push. But as we said earlier, it's not all about just push, push, push. You need to be consistent. You need to be smooth. So you just need to be. Oh, indeed, you need to be consistent. As the Nismo just totally really misses its braking point, and it's deep into the corner. But that's so easy to do when you've just been coming through the fastest part of the track and into one of the heaviest braking zones there. But he's going to regroup, and he's going to try and attack that Porsche Bywater on this next lap, I would imagine.
Yeah, Ongaro quite aggressive there, 2 times in a row, completely overestimating the braking capabilities for the first time, and very, very well and aware of Neil Bywater there in the number 38 Porsche head. It's something that obviously is part of a race as well, being attacked, but considering that he had to almost dodge the Nissan there, it's actually quite frightening. You might let him go just for the sake of not getting in contact early in the race here.
Yeah, absolutely. Just keep it all together and just really assess where you are. The pace might come back to you, so sometimes while it pays to battle for the position, it doesn't pay to battle for it too hard. And like you say, sometimes it's better to let the car go, just let the pace come to you. The thing is with that Nismo, it has got quite a lot of power, a lot of speed that compared to the Porsche, but the Porsche is very nimble and very agile, although Bywater didn't get the best line out of there, and then Nismo now he's crawling all over the back of him, and he's going to maybe try and take a look down the inside now into the S's. This is going to be brave, this is going to take a little bit of, and indeed Bywater gives him the room and actually thought better of trying to defend that one, and that's the Nismo back up into P12, so good driving there.
Yeah, with a pure force there, as we're seeing 3 Ferraris in the background. Yeah, he's just really pushing it there, just using the crowbar to break into the defense. Really, I was quite astonished to see him send it there.
Yeah, it was quite a hard move to start with, but you know, it was a brave move. Personally speaking, I don't really usually try to overtake anybody there if I'm fortunate enough to be in a position of overtaking someone. It's not a place that favours the brave, as it were. Usually somebody ends up off the track, but great driving from Bywater especially. He just left the room and thought better of it. He was looking at the bigger picture and you know, getting that car home to the end of the race.
Yeah, good thinking that. Up at the front, the pace is still very high. Kayola last lap at 27.9. Wolfslaner is right on there. The gap, if we're having a look there in a second now, it's starting to extend.
Yeah, absolutely. I just noticed on one of my other screens, Neutling's on that last lap, he did a 29.2, so he was literally just over a second off the pace, but he ran wide coming out of McLean's, and that is all it takes. It doesn't take a crash, it just takes a run wide. It costs you a second here and there, and that's the result there. As we're looking at Mark Neutling's now, he's got a bit of a gap up to P1, P2. Both of those guys up in front are lapping within, well, they're lapping the same. They're doing 127.9, both of them on the last lap. So yeah, the Neutlings needs to buckle down now. He needs to get his head together, and he needs to try and just keep it on the track, keep it tidy. He's got no pressure from behind whatsoever. He's in a position where, if I was in that position, I'd literally drive my own race, and the pace will come to you, the lap times will come. Just keep them consistent. The guys may make mistakes up ahead, and you just need to be in a position to capitalise. As we see him now come through Hollywood down into the Carrera curves in that Audi, he'll be screaming down there, and this is where one of the corners that takes a lot of commitment. You want to scrub a bit of speed off, drop it a gear through the old hairpin, maybe take a bit more inside curve there than Mark did, and let it run out a little bit wider, carry that bit more speed through there, and get a good run up through under Starkey's bridge now, and just you know, maximise that forward potential and get those lap times down. Having said that, on the last lap, Mark did a 128.1 compared to the guys in front with a 127.8, and actually P2 in that Ferrari a 127.4, which is the fastest lap of the race on the last lap. So he's charging and chasing P1 down, and yeah, I think he wants to make it a hat-trick of wins.
It's quite interesting to see that actually Wolfslaner is finding more pace in the third sector than he did in quali, and he's also absolutely by far the fastest car in the second sector here tonight. So if you want to have a look at the replay there, see what he does, that's probably exactly how you want to drive that second sector. It's quite fascinating to see the sort of pace that he can pull out. Probably getting motivated now, and maybe only now tires starting to come into shape. So 28.0 again, gaining 3/10. Let's jump on over to the action though, as we're seeing Bird right in the center pack here. After Noble dropped some positions on the start, he's now right on under fire once again, originally starting in 4th, and might now have to deal with an angry Porsche right on his tail.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a few angry cars on the track though. They're all trying to make up those positions, and it doesn't matter what group you're in, you're all fighting. Just want to say a quick hello to Andy Lee's on the YouTube. He's saying even all loving the commentary. Thank you very much, mate. It's not my familiar ground. I'm not in my comfort zone, Andy, but I'm here for the team. So good evening, buddy. And he says Bywater not happy. No, well, Bywater, I would have expected to see him a little bit higher up. I know he's capable of a bit more, but he does seem to be struggling this evening. So it'll be interesting to see how the rest of his race pans out. And Stefan, no McLarens, he says, a little bit interesting. Yeah, it's interesting that no one's chosen the McLaren, and obviously I don't know the community that well, so I've not dug that deep into the community yet to find out you know, what's behind some of the guys' reasons for car choices and things. But yeah, getting some great shots from Bird now on board in P6 in the Porsche, trying to push forward, and he's got cars. It looks like he's got the inside. Is that Noble, or is that?
Yeah, that is Noble.
It is Noble. Yep. But he's going to be on the outside though as they come towards Goddard's, and he's just dropped back a little bit. But he could, if he hangs it back there, he might just get the cutback. But it's not looking like it. It's looking like stations are retained and it is racing as normal.
Yeah, he had the opportunity there for a brief moment, but it was well thought out for Nobel to continue holding the inside there, not conceding the position in the process. But that definitely brings Rogerio Santos here, position number 7, right on into this, what is now a 3-way fight for position 5, right on up at the start of the grid.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great bite, and it's good to see the Porsches being pedalled because the within the ACC communities in general, a lot of people have lost the love for the Porsche because it is a hard car to drive. And when I say that, I mean it's a hard car to extract all the potential power out of it. It's not the quickest in a straight line, and as we saw in qualifying, if you get it slightly wrong, it does tend to bite you hard, and you can end up off the track quite often in it. But I personally, it's one of my favourite cars. I love the fact it's a bit of an oversteery car. I like to drive a car with the back end, and I do like to, shall we say, hang the ass out of it, as it were, sometimes. But it's all good fun. But it's nice to see a few people in this community driving the Porsche and really taking on that challenge of what is not the easiest car to drive fast.
Yeah, fun certainly, but most importantly, it's a car that you have to drive a lot to have fun with. Because it is so challenging, chances are you're going to throw it up into the wall for the first 100 hours that you'll be driving it. So big props here for Bird, keeping on control there. Especially Koppes, that turn 8, that long right-hander, seems to just have permanent oversteer around there, but he can manage just fine. And continues to keep the gap at a reasonable size here. Jumping right on over a bit further down the grid here, P15 might have another run here. Eric Dond from Belgium in that horse racing Ferrari, in what seems to be an almost matching livery right on ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's the first man you want to beat on the track. As your team is, we see the Ferrari there just lose it, just trying a little bit too hard. One, he was in the dirty air of the car in front. Secondly, he was on the power, and I think he's just got a lead right foot, a little bit too much weight on that accelerator pedal, and he just tried to get on the gas too soon. Maybe just didn't open up the steering enough, and stepped out, but did really well to hold on to that. Just going back to what Andy was saying about Bywater, I'm just looking at his lap times. He's not far away. His best lap so far was lap 5 with a 1:29.5, but he's circulating more around about the 1:30s. So he's definitely he's not on the pace of the front guys, but I'd say he's a little bit quicker than some of the guys he's around at the moment. He's got potential, but he just needs to settle into a rhythm. Maybe it's a setup issue, maybe it's a tyre pressure issue, maybe the car will start to come to him, but he's got 31 minutes just over left to get things sorted and try and maybe climb back up the field a little bit. As we just drop back to that battle again, these two Ferraris are really battling hard here, and they're not shaking each other. It's looking like they're going to be a bit of a battle, a race-long battles going on here.
Yeah, I think there might be something happening, though, mostly considering that that's a different Ferrari in the background there. We missed it briefly. Krista Hiot here from US was originally leading right around P13, but lost it in McLean's and had to drop back and concede almost 8 positions there.
Yeah, absolutely. But they're dropping back, but they're all moving forward in some sort of relative fashion. If we can look, I mean, if we look down the field, there's some great battles, and there's not too many massive gaps. So there's plenty still to fight for, and there's plenty of reason to keep that hammer pinned and really try and gain some places. This is very early stages in the championship. It's very early stages in this race. Still got, as I said, 30 minutes left to go. Plenty of action still to be had. Plenty of things can happen, and they just need to keep focus on the challenge in hand, which for all of them is the car in front at the moment.
Yeah, especially during this final sector, it can be very tempting to just send it, try and force an error, but chances are the error is going to be on your end when you're missing the braking zone, especially down in here, turn 11 Goddard's. It's so tempting to just get on the power too early, as we're seeing that out there, out wide. I think that must have been Eklund there, making a mistake in that 696 Ferrari. That's a car ahead. So dropping back 2 positions there, and Nobel is going to say thank you very much and take on 4th.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just those little mistakes exiting the corners, and it's interesting that we see most of the overtakes around Donington are coming from people's their own mistakes rather than pure pace of somebody being able to craft an overtake, as it were. It's literally about applying that pressure and just keeping it clean yourself, keep the pressure on the guy in front, and hope that he makes those kinds of mistakes where he either brakes too late and goes deep into a corner, or coming out the corner he just tries to hit that loud pedal a little bit too soon, a little bit too aggressively. But yeah, definitely great racing here, as we've seen 4 cars in very, very close contention, and one of those cars being Bird very high up the order in P6. So we've got P4, 5, and 6 all battling away here, and P7 just tagging on behind.
Yeah, it's fantastic to see how close these guys are. And something that you do notice in terms of the timesheets is we had Wolfslaner closing up, and then once again, second sector almost losing a full second there. We almost caught Kayola, but then the dirty air hits. And that's exactly the sort of rhythm that you're just getting thrown out of. You want to get the same sort of lines in there, but once there's a car too close up in front, you're gonna get the exit the exit fumes there from the car ahead, and all of a sudden your downforce is gone.
Yeah, absolutely. There's lots of things to consider, but these guys are doing a great job. We're just seeing that Mercedes of Noble just trying to pull away a little bit. He's just maintaining enough of a gap, so he's not under pressure. But at the moment, it's Bird really trying to put the pressure on Eklund, but Eklund's just out of reach a little bit. As we see coming down the crane of curves, he obviously got a better exit out of Redgate through Hollywood because he's just stretched the gap out a little bit to Bird, and there's not much Bird can do about that position on this lap, although he does need to keep looking in those mirrors because Santos behind. I think that gap is coming down ever so slightly. I think he's getting larger in the mirrors, and he's certainly going to be putting a challenge on for Bird in P6 if this rate of knots carries on.
Yeah, let's jump on right to the rear view, rear wing here. Get that cam in there from Eklund and Eklund in the 696 Ferrari here, trying to get that all prepared for you. Timing sheets on the left tell us a nice story that this is one of the closest battles on track. We obviously have Ongaro right on there, trying to crawl his way up into the top 10 again, where he hopes to finish. Doesn't look like it's the sort of track for the Nissan, so I'm a bit worried for the upcoming races, since chances are we're going to see about the same sort of... once again, Eklund wide there. Let's jump onto the helicam. Once again, same sort of mistake, 2 laps in a row. Let's jump back 30 seconds and get another glimpse of that. So yeah,
just very, very easy mistakes to make here, as we just see them going through the Melbourne hairpin now, and it's just very, very close between them, and it's just getting on the power, just going up towards what is Goddard's now to complete a lap, and turns in nicely, but just missed that braking point, just did not scrub enough speed off, couldn't get the car turned in, managed to keep it all relatively under control, rejoined, but that has certainly cost him positions and time.
That's exactly the sort of mistake that puts even more insecurity into one's driving, because it's the second time, and he's going to just have a little bit of a permanent mental scar, considering that. So P11 is going to be where Lars Eklund has to pray a little short prayer each time he's going to go into that, hoping that the car is actually going to break. That instance.
Yeah, to be fair, very really pushing it through Fogarty S's there, which is what you've got to do. You have got to be brave. It favours the brave because you can carry all the speed down there into towards the Melbourne hairpin, but you get that slightly wrong and you can soon be off into the scenery, and that's the end of your race. Just coming back to YouTube comments, Andy Lee's he said he meant that Mr. Bywater's not happy with the comment after the contact that he had. Yeah, to be fair, Andy, I sort of gathered what you knew, but I was trying to put a professional spin on it. To be fair, buddy, I was trying to keep it professional. But yeah, I could understand why he's not happy with that bit of comment. That we didn't see fully what happened, I don't think. But yeah, it's good racing. What makes a good race though is Bywater still battling on. He's in P13. He's going to try and come back, and it looks like he's pretty close behind P12. So it looks like he's going to maybe be trying to make a move very, very soon to gain a position.
Yeah, Bywater is well on the way, actually being one of the fastest cars here. on track right now. So we see him jump to the inside there. Paunov forced to defend and jumping over there, actually getting all 4 wheels off the track there for a brief moment. Fortunately, doesn't spell a disaster for the number 69 Aston Martin pilot, as he's forced to now concede the position where Neil Bywater will inherit P12 here. About 25 minutes left to go.
Yeah, a great move there, great battling from both of them, and it's good to see Bywater's got his mojo back and he's attacking and looking to try and go forward. But nobody on this track is going to make it easy for anyone to gain positions. They're all going to defend them as if it was defending with their life. But just going back to the front guys at the moment, while we are watching this battle, it is as intense as it is. The gap between P1 and P2 is now 2.3 seconds. Knightlin's is a further 5 seconds back, so they've really stretched their legs out and taken it away. But you know, I think Knightlin's in fact may have just had an issue somewhere on that lap, because that gap has just actually extended out even further. So he's lost a little bit of time and he's done another slow lap with a 1:32.6. So it looks like Knightlin's maybe just ran a little wide somewhere on that last lap and made a mistake. As we said earlier, it does only take the smallest of mistakes to cost you those 1 and 2 seconds that can cost you positions.
Yeah.
But he's still looking relatively comfortable. He's got 1.7 seconds back to P4, which is Noble. But we know Noble in that Mercedes is stretching. Well, he's not stretching away from the guys in front behind him, but he's potentially bringing a whole lot of trouble for Knightlin's if they catch him.
Yeah, certainly. By the looks of it, Neutlings had some trouble into turns 7 and 8. Those the dreaded combination, McLean's and Coppice, basically deciding not just the second, but also the entirety of the third sector here. You lost about 4 seconds there, and then another 2 to complete the deal there. So Neutlings basically cutting the gap that he had to go the cars behind almost in half immediately. Now an 8-second extension is going to be very difficult to get rid of for the rest of the 20 minutes here around Donington.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's interesting because that's where he made the mistake earlier on in the race, was through McLean's and Coppice area to lose a bit of time initially. So maybe that's his bogey corner, and like you said there, after he's made a mistake at one corner, it's always in the back of your mind every time you come round lap after lap. So maybe that's playing on Mark's mind, that he's maybe lost a little bit of confidence through McLean's and Coppice and making mistakes and costing himself time. But knowing Mark, he'll regroup, he'll push on, and he'll I'm hoping he maintains that podium position, but we'll see, because Noble is certainly attacking the track and he's dragging along with him Bird in 5th place as well in that Porsche, not too far behind. And this pack, although they've stayed together, they're not really harrying and hustling each other at the moment, which is good for them because it will maximise their lap times. The last thing they want to be doing is attacking each other, because that will cost them time. At the moment, they're all got enough space just to drive their own lines, keep pushing forward and seeing if they can get the gap down to Knightlin's. And I think, to be fair, I don't think Mark's pulling away from them. I think, if anything, they are potentially closing that gap down.
Yeah, most certainly. I mean, if the number 701 Porsche could bring maybe a brother or a sister on board here, we'd have a flock of birds here following along the number 3 AMG here as we're going into that final corner. I'd say that they're doing absolutely perfect. They're all just in that train. They're sharing the slipstream down the straight, and you see it in cycling races, Tour de France. If you do watch that, it's exactly the sort of same effect, where this group, with its consistency and the ability to interchange some drivers, as long as they aren't fighting each other too close to the end of the race, they're definitely all going to be benefiting from this scenario here.
I get the comparison, I like the comparison, but it's the first time I've heard GT3 racing compared to cycling.
If you're looking how much they're scrubbing the front tires here in the number 3.
But yeah, no, but you are exactly right though. As we see though, on this lap, Noble just seemed to have managed to gain a little bit of an advantage up through under Starkey's bridge and into McLean's. He's managed to gap Bird behind him a little bit, but they are driving in their own space and they are maximising those lap times, and they are closing that gap down. I think to Knightlin's ahead, it's going to be close.
Yeah, the question is, when they do arrive at Neutlings, and considering he's about half a second off the pace of Noble right now, the question is, are they going to be fighting and pushing, Or they're just going to welcome him like a new member of their own small religious cult here, following PS4 and Noble's pace.
We've just ticked on to just under 20 minutes left of this race. It is going to take him, unless Mark Neutlins makes a mistake, it's going to take him a couple more laps at least to get up to the back of him. Right. Once they're on the back of him, it's going to be a free for all because they're going to concertina up. We're going to if it stays as it is now, we're going to get Noble attacking Neutlins, we'll get Bird attacking Noble, and so on and so forth, all down the order, and it could end up a real free for all. We could see 7th place being on the podium by the end of the race if those guys get together.
Yeah, chances are that's something that can happen very easily. Any sort of contact, it's super tight to keep the car on track once there is any. As we see Krista here forcing the Peter de Jong in the Porsche following him. They're almost out wide there. It's a very close battle, 3-way. Let's see if they're gonna send it too wide up into turn 1. He would have the opportunity now onto the brakes. He's gonna briefly send it, see if he responds, and the number 70, one of Jonathan Wood, does so. It's gonna cost him not 1 but actually 2 positions, as Peter de Jong says thank you very much and puts that pink Porsche right behind.
Yeah, really good move there, really clean, really decisive. I mean, I prefer to say moves are decisive rather than aggressive because I think, there's an element of aggression in them, but it's all about being decisive. And if you're going to go for a move, you need to get the job done. But having said that, now we've got De Jong. He's going to he's looking to push on and push forward, but it's looking like the car behind. Who's that in the car behind? He's really going to be pushing, and he's not wanting to let go. It's going to be a bit of a battle here.
Jonathan Wood there in that number 71 that we're seeing in that blue Porsche in the background. To quickly comment on what you were saying, I think the difference between aggressive and decisive was perfectly displayed in this case. Most importantly, because we saw him wait there and realize, is the car ahead, is the driver ahead, understanding that I'm going to be sending it to the inside, and he had the opportunity to back out of it. He had the racecraft to do so, but he decided not to take his chances. Quick update here, just from the front here, where we saw number 2 car, Jorgen Wolby, from the front pack. The Porsche barely touches the grass there, is able to save that, very nice. So Jorgen Wolby there, dropping a couple of positions there, originally was a bit further up ahead in the grid. But made a mistake which cost him about 6 seconds, and that's basically him out of the front pack where he used to be.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's looking like dare I tempt fate with 17 minutes to go, but it's looking like Wolfshiner's perfect run of 2 out of 2 so far is not going to turn into 3 out of 3 tonight. He is 2.3 seconds off the leader, as you can see on the screen there. Both doing an outstanding job of racing their own races, gapped everybody behind them and staying out of trouble, not putting a foot wrong, because their lap times have remained pretty consistent throughout this race so far, with 16 minutes left on the clock. But that gap is not to and fro, and it almost looks like it's being managed. So at this stage in the race, Nicholas, do you think that gap is being managed, or do you think it's just a case of these 2 drivers' pace is so close that it doesn't really matter?
Kayola is absolutely driving out of his mind right now. He actually set the fastest first sector.
Sorry to interrupt, buddy. Yeah, Neutlings down to 5th. What's going on? We've missed it.
Yeah, let's go back 30 seconds and jump on that. I just want to quickly follow up. Yeah, basically he got the first, the fastest first sector right on here. So these guys are both just absolutely pushing for pace. Did we already miss it there? I think Mark Neutlings is already back there.
Yeah, the Mercedes and the Porsche are already through, so unfortunately we missed that one. So apologies to you guys watching on the stream, but definitely, yeah, Mark Neutlings, I would say that was a mistake made, because he did have a few seconds in hand there on the guys ahead of him, but he's certainly he's lost out now.
Yeah, I might have to go back to the replay. Unfortunately, I won't be able to. Unless you really want me to go back and
no, it's fine. Let's get back to the action and see what's going on live, as it were.
Eklund, once again, he was quite close to Diamante, Alessandro Diamante, that is in the 51 Ferrari ahead, and once again 2.7 seconds now lost this time round compared to his personal best. So there must have been another mistake, and exactly this 30 minutes in is when the tires are starting to ease off on you. They're starting to get away a little bit. So right now is the deciding factor: who has the consistency and who's going to be making the mistakes that decide the rest of the race.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you say, it's all about mistakes. It's all about consistency, and you know, you obviously want to be consistent and make no mistakes. But yeah, got some great battles going on. We've got some good driving tonight, and it's been it was a full grid as well. We had around about 30 cars on the grid when we started. We've got a couple of cars in the pits, as you can just see there in the shots. We go past pit lane, just 2 cars parked up at the moment. So a couple of guys choosing not to score points this evening. But yeah, everyone doing a fantastic job, and we've got pockets of battles all the way up and down as we see the Ferrari here of Hayat, is it?
Yeah, Krista Hayat in the Hayat in
Yeah.
Texas Racing 823.
Yeah, doing a good job, and he's trying to chase down the Ferrari, number 12 Ferrari ahead of him, but just not close enough at the moment to really probably even get into the slipstream.
Sorry
because
to interrupt there. Mark Neuseling's just got under fire quite heavily there after one more mistake. It seems to be quite a repeating thing for him now as they're lapping traffic there. Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
No, it must be that, you know, Neutlings, I'm wondering if he's got an issue with his setup, whether he's pushed his tyres too hard, whether his setup's too aggressive and it's taken the edge off the tyres and he's struggling for pace, whether it's a confidence thing. You know, I buy into what you said. It definitely, you know, it does undermine your confidence. If you make 1 or 2 mistakes here and there, you naturally start to slow down to overcompensate for those mistakes, and that usually leads to more mistakes, as we see him. A perfect line there through the old hairpin, it has to be said, but he is losing ground to Santos behind, and he's coming under more pressure. This seems to be his bogey part of the track. Now let's see how he gets through. Perfect, not a bad line there at all, carrying enough speed, and Santos not close enough to attack there. He just needs a good drive out of here to get the power down in that Audi and hit that rev limiter of 8,800 RPM down the straight now, through the gears, building the speed up, building up till he comes into the braking point now. As he goes through into the Fogarty S's, needs to be off the brakes, turn it in, get back on the power now, nice and smooth, run it out wide, keep the power down hard, and running it into the braking zone now for the Melbourne. Take a nice wide entry in, cut back into it, tight apex. As to the cars in front, that's Bird.
That's Noble and Bird,
Noble,
yeah.
So that's Neutlings back up to P3. Now that has been gifted back to him there. Not quite sure what's gone on between those 2 guys. We're going to cut to a replay now and just follow them through the S's here now, down towards the Melbourne hairpin. So let's see what happened. Is this a late lunge from?
Yeah.
From
must
Bird,
have
maybe
been,
not quite
maybe
sure,
a
or was it
mistake
just
on the exit here. Yeah, it's the
yeah.
003, David Noble to the outside there, losing a lot of time, and the Porsche does get the better run on the traction zone. That's going to be forcing them way down the grid, and exactly that sort of move was very preventable, really.
Yeah, well, let's see how Neutlings is doing now, because he's been gifted that position back. He's coming under pressure from Santos, as we knew before we cut to that replay. And as we see there, the pressure has not eased at all for Neutlings, although he's still in front. He will be breathing a sigh of relief. He will be wiping his brow. He'll wipe the sweat off his brow now and think he's got to try and hang on to this podium place. He deserves it. He's been there for most of the race. He's had a few off-track excursions that have cost him time, but he's really he needs to apply the racecraft he's got. And a fantastic camera shot now, looking back at Santos. We're going to see him really close up in the braking zone, but Mark hopefully will carry a smooth. Yeah, a lot smoother there through the Fogarty S's than Santos, and that's gained him some time now, allowed him some breathing space into the Melbourne hairpin, turning it in nice and wide. Open the steering up before you hit that loud pedal too hard, just so you don't get the back end stepping out, spinning out. Santos does close up to him in the Melbourne hairpin, but Mark's just not under that much pressure at that point on the circuit, as they come round Goddard's now to complete another lap, and the timer is at 10 minutes and 50 seconds, so Mark's got a few more minutes, another 10 minutes or so of pressure to soak up. He's doing a fantastic job at the moment, though. Now, I think, speaking from experience, Nicholas, sometimes when you are soaking up this pressure, it's better than racing out alone. It keeps you focused, it keeps the concentration levels high.
Yeah, Neutelings must be absolutely on edge, especially considering that if you watch very closely here, over the curbs and on some of the X's, you can see how much the Audi is jumping. Almost feels like the suspension might be a little bit too soft, really. So it feels almost to an extent where he has to be so cautious with the car after the mistakes. Maybe sometimes the car stepping out on him, because it is very different to the last two tracks that we've been driving at, especially Mount Panorama. Very suitable for the Audi, but around here you have to make do with what he's got.
Yeah, absolutely. But he's doing a good job. He's just keeping that gap just enough, and it's looking like Noble and Bird have sorted themselves out behind, but they're not going to really close that gap down unless there's any mistakes up front. Don't want to touch in wood, don't want to tempt fate, don't want the commentators' curse on it. But Mark's doing a fantastic job there with Santos. Really, he gone in a bit deep. Those Mark there. I think Santos was looking to go down the inside line as
Did I
Mark
miss that?
just went a bit
Sorry.
deep, but he's managed to cut it back, and he's managed to protect it as Santos
Oh.
chucks it up the inside there. Mark needs to get the cut back now, and he needs to get back down that inside there, get on the power and get that covered off before they head in towards Redgate, because he does not want Santos to have that inside line for Redgate, because that could be game over for P3 for Neutlings, and it's going to be touch and go. But it looks like he's got to be braver, he's got to defend it. Contact.
Yeah, he does pull it to the inside, almost like the Ferrari weren't there. It was a bit of a late lunge there from Santos, but it was a well-deserved one. He's going to give back the position there, considering that it was certainly a part of his fault. At least he felt so, and that basically closes any sort of gap that was had to Noble. And he's going to be challenging once again for P4, if not P3, if Neutlings were to make a mistake here.
Yeah, for me, Mark should have gone defensive into that corner. Really, he did leave the door open for Santos, and I think it was just it is a racing incident. Santos really sportsmanly gave the position back, but part of me thinks that Mark maybe did just leave that door open a little bit, and maybe should have tried to defend. It was great driving from both of them up until that point, and it was just the slightest attack. But respect to Santos there for giving that position back to Mark, and now. That does give Mark, as he runs wide there through Fog TS, he's over the gravel, he's going to lose the run now down into the Melbourne hairpin, and the guys behind Santos Noble are going to be looking at each other. Thankfully for Mark, those two guys are a little bit too busy checking each other out, but I say Mark is really struggling to get that car turned at the moment, and the guys behind have certainly got an advantage on the handling when it comes to those slower corners, especially, as they're all over the back of him. Look at Santos now climbing around him, he's looking to try and get that move again. To get alongside, but he hasn't done it this time, and I think Mark's pretty safe this lap round. What Mark needs now is for Noble to start putting Santos under pressure and give Mark a bit of breathing room.
Yeah, he's hoping that they're going to start preoccupying each other instead of focusing up front, because obviously Bird and Noble were previously in those positions 3 and 4 that Rogerio, Santos and Neutlings find themselves in right now. So they're basically a little bit of envy playing along with that, I feel like, as they're heading now up the hill once again, Starkey's Bridge and then into McLean's. That's going to be very important, decisive in terms of the run that they're going to be getting out there. Not a great overtaking opportunity, but it's fantastic to put on some initial pressure now up into Coppice. And just a second here, long right-hander there, nice exit from the Ferrari. Don't think it's going to be enough of a run, as they're going to be continuously chasing. Now up in here, Neutling showed some weakness into the braking zone. Let's see how he can handle it this time around. Definitely cutting there inside once again and onto the grass. Chances are that's going to be a warning.
Yeah, maybe you can, as long as you can cut quite a bit there. It's not too bad. It seems to be in these slower corners. It's Melbourne, it's Goddard's. That's where these guys behind really close up on Mark. He struggles to get that front end to bite when he's in the slower corner and get it turned in, and that's when they start climbing all over the back of him. Definitely, he's not struggling in the higher speed stuff. It is the slow. Interestingly, it's the slow speed stuff. But Santos, he's got his mirrors now full of Noble and Birds, just playing a watching brief this time, and he's maybe waiting for one more little mistake, as we've seen two mistakes from this group of cars before for them all to swap positions. So yeah, it looks like Bird's just sat there. I don't think he's got the pace at the moment to challenge these guys as we just drop into the last just under 6 minutes to go. But Noble is certainly eyeing up a move on Santos, so Santos really needs to get up onto the back of Neutlings really and make that a three-way scrap, I think.
Yeah, that's probably going to be the plan right on here for the final 5 minutes in the race. There's yellow flags ahead. Let me quickly check what sort of car that is. Don't see the incident anymore. I'm considering that might be position number 25 right on there. That would be Andreas Petersen from Sweden. I think that might be the mistake. Actually, Carlos Van Brandt? Hold on, let me check there. Yeah, that must have been the mistake. He was P21 there just a second ago. Lost 11.5 seconds. Let's just quickly go back to the replay and see what happened there. That's the mistake already well under action. So it's almost being collected. Doesn't quite hold the brakes there and is able to make it come back around. That was pretty close.
Yeah, pretty close, but cost him a lot of time there, as you say. He's dropped down the positions, but won't have picked up any damage, so he'll manage to carry on for the last 5 minutes or so of this race now as is. But look, Santos has closed back up onto Neutlings again. He's looking, he's filling his mirrors full of him as they come into fog. Yes, Neutlings needs a good run through there. He gets it, and he's protected. But now cut back to the live action and into Redgate for the first time. And again, Santos is all over the back of Neutlings when it comes to the slow corners, isn't he? And he's really putting him under pressure.
Yeah, there's hardly any way. I wanted to check with some other action that's happening on track. Obviously, you saw me just barely catching what the Porsche did there after almost a hero comeback originally from Van Brandt. That's just a big mistake. Bird up into the wall. Big front damage there. Chances are the suspension is going to have a knack at that. He's going to be dropping back. Does a little donut. That's 4 minutes too early to be doing donuts, Mr. Bird. Ah, very unfortunate. He just drops
4
to
minutes
the end.
early and wrong. 4 minutes early and wrong position. But no, I'm absolutely gutted for Bird because I think he's driven a fantastic race. I think he's been consistent. He was playing a watching brief. He was putting pressure on where it was needed. Yeah, I don't think he's done anything really too silly. Yeah, there was that little incident with Noble through Melbourne hairpin. Not quite sure whose fault that was, what really went on there. But I'm absolutely gutted now to see that he's dropped down to 8th place. I think, even is it 9th place, maybe 8th or 9th, but he was a fantastic drive.
It's the same story here. If we're checking, Mark Pocock was originally way up ahead. Lost a bunch of positions here as well after making a costly mistake. Almost 10 seconds of time lost there. Jump on up to Peter de Jong here, who almost had a run there onto the grass. He's going to use all of the track literally to make it past Dimitri Kanstatis, which is the Ferrari number 12 right on the head there. And we see that apparently the Porsche might have a hard time jumping on the exit there of the S's. Chances are you might have bottomed out.
Yeah, absolutely, and just watching further ahead, that battle with Neutling, Santos and Noble is really concertinaed up as well, and they are all over the back of each other. So battling all up and down the field here as we see De Jong, and it's looking like the Porsche is going to get down the inside of the Ferrari. Bit of contact there and into pits, exit stage left. Very unceremoniously. That was a little bit harsh and a little bit of rubbing. Not quite sure if there'll be a penalty on that one, but yeah, it'll definitely need reviewing maybe.
Yeah, it was very rough. They didn't leave each other much room, and when that sort of thing is just not given at the exit of the final turn here and at Donington, chances are there's going to be a bit of contact, and you have to consider himself lucky for not being sent into the actual pits, where he would almost be forced to do a drive-through, considering how short the entry to the pit lane is here.
Yeah, that would have been insult to injury, wouldn't it? Having to rumble down the pit lane on the pit limiter. So yeah, but look at this one. This is really teeing up now. The last minute and 50 seconds. So we're going to be entering the penultimate lap now. We're going to have one more lap after this for this battle to get sorted out. Neutlings just stretching his legs there. Noble looking to go down the inside with Santos. Santos getting a good run through Redgate, looking to go around the outside of Neutlings. Down through Hollywood into the Carina curves now, approaching the old hairpin at speed. Neutling's taking a little bit of a tighter line, which is costing him on the exit, and that allows Santos to close right up onto the back of him now. And if he can get a run up here through under Starkey's bridge up towards McLean's, he could get alongside in the braking zone, but it looks like he's had to lift a little bit earlier. Neutling's driving a little bit defensive, and again that's going to cost him. Runs out wide, Neutlings loses it on the AstroTurf there. Absolutely gutted for Neutlings there. He was a cat with 9 lives, and he's used all 9 lives tonight. He was gifted that position back earlier on in the race, as we saw when Noble and Bird had a coming together, and literally on the penultimate lap he's lost.
Look at the tragedy here. He's beached the Audi on the penultimate lap.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think now it is the case of it is battle for Santos and Noble to see which one of those guys is going to
Right, sorry about that. I'm gonna go back to the battle. I just really wanted to have a quick look what happened to the Audi there. It's gutting, to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely. But look at Noble now. He's all over the back of Santos as they head into Fogarty S's now. It's all about getting a clean line through here, maximise the run, get the speed down towards the Melbourne hairpin, leaving it as late as you dare to brake, and the cut back to live action. And it's contact again. Oh my word! As we cut back to the live action there, it's Noble gives Santos a little bit of a tap, and I'm not sure if you can blame anybody there. They were trying to go through too wide. And I don't think anybody really drove into anyone, but just really
it's the last lap scenario, exactly that. Patience ran out, and look at this. Jorgen Walby is going to be the one benefiting from everything right on there. He started way back, and he's used all of this fighting to jump from P11 to P3 in this race.
Absolutely. I think if you'd have said to him 3 laps ago, you will be on the podium, he'd have laughed. But that just goes to show everything and anything can go wrong, even up until the last lap. But now we see the winner coming over the line for the final time to take the checkered flag. And it's a win for the Aston Martin at 67. Going to take maximum points here, 40 points for the win. And our championship leader brings it home in second place. Fantastic driving from those two.
Yeah, definitely. That's just the pace. They've been so close all race, 28.8 at the end. That was, once again, quicker than some of the other drivers during qualifying. And here, lucky Jorgen Walby in the number 2 Aston Martin is going to take the 3rd spot on the podium. He's going to be very pleased with that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, everyone's happy when they finish a race anyway, as long as you've had a race with somebody somewhere, and there's been lots of battles up and down the field here tonight, so it's always good. And you know, but like we said earlier on in the broadcast, as long as you've enjoyed yourself, that's what it's all about. But I think that wraps up a great race from Donington Park, and with a great result for the guys, and onwards and upwards, as it were, or onwards and downwards from East Midlands down to Kent for Brands Hatch for the next round.
Oh, Brands Hatch, I love Brands Hatch, and I know that the Ferrari is super strong there, so chances are we're gonna see right up front Peter Wolfslehner trying to retaliate in that 196 in terms of the pace, because he was close, but Cayola was just the stronger driver here tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we said, some great racing from these guys tonight. But if you do want to join the guys, there will be a stream on Sunday, May the 30th, and that will be live from Brands Hatch. So please join the stream, join the community, and come and watch some great racing. Thanks for watching tonight, and thank you very much to Nicholas for the fantastic pictures and being the fantastic commentator that you are. My name's Steve Proudley. You've been watching eSeniors GT3 at Donington Park. Good night.